A Sunday Drive in Pyongyang by Neil Woodburn. This is the standard way that most tourists see the capital of North Korea, in a minivan with a bunch of other tourists blaring through the city, rarely if ever stopping. When we do, it's a prearranged stop that's been organized by our tour guides, and everyone is expecting us. To actually get out of the van and walk around is an impossibility in this country. I'd love to be on the side of the street there, walking with the pedestrians, poking my head in shops, but this is simply not allowed in tightly controlled North Korea. It's very interesting as we drive into town along this route. This is the main road. You'll see there's a lot of pedestrians, very few walking together. Walking is the most common form of transportation here. There is a subway, although rumor has it doesn't work entirely. There are also a number of buses, but what you don't see in this video today is the long bus lines that we saw in the center of town. And when I say that everybody walks in Pyongyang, I mean everybody walks. Coming up on your right, you'll shortly see a small platoon of soldiers walking through the city streets. I'm not sure where their vehicles are, and we're actually not supposed to videotape them. We were told we can take photographs and video of anywhere within the city limits of Pyongyang, with the exception of any type of soldiers whatsoever. So I was able to get away with this, and there's no close-up shots of the soldiers, so I'm assuming no one will get in trouble here. Something you see a lot of in Pyongyang is propaganda. Quite a few billboards and mosaics are located throughout the city. Coming up here on your right, you'll see a rather large rotunda of some soldiers marching merrily into the future. As we get closer towards the center of the city, you'll also note some of the more grandiose architecture that's around, and a number of bright red flags with the communist emblem on it. You'll see the storefronts here have picked up a little bit more glass, a little bit more classy, but you'll notice there's almost no signs in front of any of them. As we start to make the turn up ahead, you'll see a very familiar sight come into view. This is Pyongyang's Arc of Triumph. It's patterned after the one in Paris, but of course it's 3 meters taller. It signifies the victory over the Japanese following World War II and was commissioned by Kim Il-sung himself. Then we've got some type of official building up here on the right. I'm not sure what it is, but it's festooned with bright red communist flags. As we cross through this intersection, you also see a movie theater come into view, and it appears some type of karate film is playing here. Something else you'll notice as the camera swings occasionally back to the street is that there are very few cars in North Korea. We only saw maybe a few hundred at any given time while driving through the city. And there are also no streetlights in Pyongyang. What the city has instead is a corps of young traffic women dressed in bright blue and white uniforms, directing traffic with whistles and batons. As we start up the hill here, you'll see a winged statue of a horse in the distance, 46 meters tall. It was built in 1961. It's called the Kalima statue, and according to my copy of Pyongyang Review, it symbolizes the heroic mettle and indomitable spirit of the Korean people. At the base you'll see some propaganda posters, and then as the camera swings around, you'll see one of the most amazing sights in Pyongyang, the Grand Monument to Kim Il-sung. Every tourist who visits North Korea is taken to this statue and asked to lay flowers at its base to pay homage to the great leader, as the North Koreans call him. And while we're doing so, thousands of North Koreans are lining up in their best clothing to do so as well. It's a very strange and bizarre experience that borders on cultish fanaticism. Up ahead on the right is what's called the Children's Palace. It's sort of an after-school palace for kids to come and learn all sorts of arts and crafts, and every tourist is also given a tour of that place, and it's quite fascinating and quite impressive. This rather traditional building up there in the distance is the Grand Study House. This is also a library and lecture hall where people can go after school or work to take lessons. As we approach the next corner, you'll see a propaganda poster at the intersection, followed by a bunch of people talking on the phone to the right. Everyone in Pyongyang is dressed very nicely, men in suits and women in dresses. You'll also see what was supposed to be the world's tallest hotel until construction was stopped for unknown reasons. It's an eyesore now looming over the landscape of Pyongyang. There we have Kim Il-sung, the great leader, another large mosaic. This is typical of mosaics we see around the country. And as we start to turn the corner here, you'll see our final destination come into view, the Grand Study House. Hopefully this short video has given you a good idea of what downtown Pyongyang is like and what to expect if you ever find yourself there. And hopefully when you do, you'll be able to step out of the minivan and walk along the streets and converse freely with the people. That time will come one day, but until then we unfortunately have to rely on what the guides show us, understanding that there's a whole lot more to Pyongyang than what one sees from the window of a tourist van.